Hi Year 3, so this is the writing task for this week. As you can see, we've got a picture. It is of Charlie's home from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We have done setting descriptions before when we were learning about when Jessie came across the sea, and we're going to be working upon the same criteria today. Okay, so before we actually start writing our setting description, which is all about the location that a story takes place in, we need to think about the plan. What parts of the house could you actually describe? Here in the picture we can see there's a roof, a chimney, tiles, house overall, and fence, as well as doors, windows, and lots of other parts. Before you start your planning, you might want to note some of those down, and you can always pause the video to help you with that if you would like. Okay, so with each part that you write down, each noun, we can plan some adjectives. For example, if you've written the word roof, words like sagging, which means to be falling inwards, or dilapidated, to be falling apart. If you've written the word chimney, you can look at it and see that it's bent and crumbling. The tiles, we're using adjectives such as loose and broken because it appears that they are falling off the roof. House, or should I say hovel, which is a word for a not well looked after house. And you could describe that as ramshackle because it's not put together well and it's obviously falling apart. And the fence I would describe as rickety because there's panels missing and some of them are leaning to one side rather than standing straight. So now you've had a chance to think about the adjectives that you'd like to describe the different parts of the house. Let's have a think about how we can make that picture even clearer. So prepositions, these are words that we have used before in class to help us make the scene clearer for the reader, as they can imagine how everything is connected. And they're a good way to help you vary your sentence starters too. So keep looking at the picture. And next to it now you can see prepositions. These are words that tell us where something is, the position of something. For example, on top of the roof was a crumbly chimney stack which leaned dangerously as if all its strength had gone. And surrounding, so this tells us it's all the way around. Surrounding the house was a rickety fence with huge gaps between the rotten wooden panels. So here we've got two prepositions in one sentence. So here we are talking about conjunctions. These are for joining clauses and extending sentences. Conjunctions allow us to join or link our ideas and engage the reader with extra and interesting details. And below are some examples of conjunctions that you could use to ensure you add detail to your writing. For example, you've got for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so, and you've probably all used some of those in your writing already this year. Subordinating conjunctions, here are some of the most commonly used ones, they're not the only ones. If, since, as, when, although, while, after, before, until, and because. You probably use some of those in your writing this year as well. Words such as although show a difference, a contrast. For example, here's a sentence with a conjunction in. Inside their home was filled with love, but the roof was so dilapidated it was often also filled with rain or snow. So here we've tried to show the reader that even though it wasn't always unhappy, it wasn't a well cared for home. Okay, now as an extension this week we've been asking you to use brackets to mark parentheses, which is actually something that we were doing in class the week before this. Now these brackets were used to mark parentheses, or should we say extra detail, or those whispered asides that we've talked about. And this is another way to inject extra interesting details Or set the mood for a piece of writing by giving an opinion or a thought, something that wouldn't come straight from the description itself. For example, surrounding their home, which was actually more of a hovel, was a rickety fence. So adding the explanation that it was actually more of a hovel gives the reader the impression of the poverty and the desperateness of their living conditions. Tiles wobbled violently, almost as a warning to those entering the house, every time they came through the door. Again, giving the impression that the house is almost alive, as if the tiles are telling you something terrible about the state of the home before you come in. It helps the reader to engage with the text. Okay, and here is some modelled writing to help you out with your thoughts when you sit down to come and write yours. So here's the first part of my first sentence. Charlie's home was filled with love. When we write our setting description, we are going to be saying some quite horrific things about his home, but we want to understand that it isn't because Charlie's family are not loving and caring. It is just the state of the home. So I thought it was really important to start with this. But it was also a cold and ramshackle hovel. So we've got but, our conjunction to add detail, and then the words ramshackle and cold to describe it. And I've also used the word hovel because I think it is an improvement. It really clearly states what the house is like. Hovel sounds like a much more rundown place. Okay, once I finished that sentence, I decided I would start to talk about the roof, which goes across the entire thing. It's not just a part of the roof that's loose, it is the entire one. Across the entire roof were loose and broken tiles. So I can picture that in my head, but what extra detail am I going to add to make it more interesting? Here we go. So I put some parentheses in, some aside, threatening to fall each time someone closed a door or window. Now what I'm doing by adding that piece of information is just allowing the reader to imagine the teetering effect of those tiles that are broken and loose on the edge, almost danger for the reader, imagining they're going through and could possibly be hit by one of them. Okay, so after that, again, I've chosen a preposition to allow the reader to connect their mind from one place. So I've gone from across the entire roof to now beside the roof. So beside this was a crumbling chimney stack. So this picture of squalid neglect is really starting to come together. And now I'm going to use a conjunction to help build upon that. So beside this was a crumbling chimney stack, which was bent and had so many holes it belched smoke in all directions whenever a fire was lit. Now I could have said that some smoke came out, but we always associate lots of smoke with something dirty and not very nice, and I wanted to really build upon that feeling about what the house is like, so that's why I used the word belched. And here is my next and last sentence. Surrounding, again my preposition, I wanted you to know that the fence went all the way around the house. It's not a terraced house. So surrounding the house was a rickety fence with rotten fence panels jutting out awkwardly like a set of decaying teeth. Again, I've chosen words like rotten and decaying because I want it to sound like it's not very nice, that you can imagine that in your head, and I've compared it with teeth jutting out because it makes it sound, or rather decaying teeth, because again it makes it sound as unpleasant as it was for Charlie living there. Okay, so now it's your turn to have a go at writing. I can't wait to see your results.